Hi, Joe Cerrone.
And Alan Rosen.
Welcome to CAD 116 Basic AutoCAD and our weekly Zoom classroom meeting. Okay, so last week we opened up the midterm, and so the midterm is available until 11:59 p.m. tonight. Most students have taken the midterm. You can also take the practice exam. We recommend you take the practice exam. And you do have 2 attempts for the midterm. So you can take the midterm this morning and take it one more time before 11:59 and see if you can improve your score. Students will need a webcam and a photo ID. We're using Honor Lock. It's $10, I believe, for one test and $18 for unlimited. And so we recommend you take the unlimited because we'll be using the Honor Lock proctoring system for the final exam as well. This week we're going to be covering Module 8. Module 8 goes through inquiry commands, and inquiry commands are used for certification exams. And so if you look into the inquiry command objectives, what they have us do is to go through and be able to calculate things like the area and distance of certain drawings that they'll create. And so if we take a look at that, it's located under Content. Module 8. And the learning objectives are to be able to list the status, be able to list database information, be able to calculate the area of closed boundary shapes, be able to work with distance, coordinates, be able to calculate time. There's a command called time, which will tell how long you have been working on a drawing in AutoCAD. And then some variables for settings and things like that, which are a little bit more advanced. And then we have an architectural lab. The architectural lab is this floor plan, and it's kind of a task orientated drawing because there aren't doors to this bedroom number 2 for some reason. But be that as it may, it's part of the AutoCAD certification manual that we have on file. And then this mechanical lab, which is a gasket, which we'll go through and calculate the area out of also. And so the drawings are located right here where you can download the plan drawing. And so we can download that. And then we can open that drawing. And then the way that we work this is that we go through, and there's another drawing here which has the analysis questions on it. And so if we download this Module 8 Plan 1 and open that, this is from the AutoCAD Certification Exam Prep Workbook, and it's used as a way to test people's knowledge of analysis commands. And so we start with this drawing that we just downloaded, and then we set the architectural units, and then we would normally draw it, but we've given you the drawing so that we can go through the calculations. And then what we do is we refer to these questions. And so the first question asks the total area in square feet of all the bedrooms is closest to. And it's a little tricky because they don't calculate it with the closets included. And so if we look at the bedroom number 2 here, we can calculate it with the area command by going to the tab called Utilities, and then we want to measure area. And then we want to use an object snap, and we want our object set for endpoints and intersections so that we can get the corners of the room. And then what we'll do is we'll go to measure area, and then we'll calculate the area out. And so we say measure area.
You gotta turn on an F3, Joe.
Thanks, Al. And we can go through and measure the area of the room. hit enter, and it will tell us that this is 104 square feet. And so we can hit enter. I like to use the F2 key to flip screen, and then I just copy that information. And so what I'll do is I'll F2 flip screen, Control C, and then I'll just drop it into the room with a Control V and place that in the room area. And I think I can make it fit if there we go. And so room number 1 is 104 square feet. And then if we want to go and calculate the next room, we can go here to measure area and calculate the next room. Hit enter. And this one's 127.5 square feet. And so again, I like to hit the F2 key, copy and paste that information just so that it's perfect. I don't have to worry about making an error by typing. And then I'll place that in the room. Hit escape. And then the third bedroom, we'd measure the area on. And we get 74.11 square feet. Again, I'll hit the F2 key. I'll copy and paste that. Control C, Control V, place that in the room. And then we can calculate that. So we can go into our calculator. And there's one built in AutoCAD. It's running it right now. And so we can say 104 plus 127.5 plus 74.11. And that gives us 305.61. And if we look at our answers, that would be B. The total area in square feet of all bedrooms is closest to. And so we would mark B. And what I recommend students do is they just put the answers right in the drawing itself. And so we could go into text, and we could use a multi-line text, and then we could just say 1B 306 square feet, and then green check mark it. We can make that a little bit bigger so that it's on one line. There we go. All right, and so as we work on analysis drawings and CAD certification, other questions like distances are calculated with the distance command. And it's a great way to go through and see if something's been properly drawn, because they'll take the distances like from corner to corner of the rooms. And so they're asking for the distance from A to the intersection at B. And so if we look at the numbers here, or the letters, we have A, and here we have B. You could just draw a line from the endpoints and then analyze the line by clicking on that line and going quick properties, and it'll tell you the length, 26 feet 10 and a 16th. And then if we were to use the analysis command, if I get that to clear, we'd use the distance command. And so we'd say the distance from here to here, and it calculates the same values for us, but it also gives us some other information like the angle in the XY plane, and that will sometimes come into play on these calculations. But as we take a look at the answer for this one, we can see that it's 26 feet 10 and a 16th, and so the answer would be C, 26 feet, because it's asking you what's closest to. So that a little bit of extra 1 inch or 1/16 of an inch isn't going to be counted. All right, So that's basically how we'll work these drawings. We're going to analyze our floor plan drawing for the following data: square feet in the bedrooms, distances, and then they have us calculate the square feet of the closets, the laundry room, and the distance from another intersection to another intersection. And so it's pretty straightforward. You should be able to finish this rather quickly. And that's sort of the way these AutoCAD certification exams used to be. I think they've changed them a little bit. They don't have as much in the analysis area as they used to. I'm going through some of the certification manuals now. But as we go through, you have your choice of either the architectural drawing or the mechanical drawing. And the mechanical drawing is this gasket drawing right here. And so here's the video for how to calculate those. We also have the video for how to calculate the information in the architectural drawing. And if we look at the gasket drawing, again, it's a certification exam drawing. And let's go back and get the one with the questions on it. And so here's what it looks like. Let me download that. And we'll open it. And so this one you'll have to draw, and it's a little bit more challenging. I kind of like that when we get into creating these different drawings. And when you create this drawing, you need to create it at the coordinates that they tell you so that it properly analyzes. And so in the directions, it says set the units to decimal and set it to 2 decimal places of accuracy. Be sure that system angles are measured in decimal degrees. And so when we work on this drawing right here, and we look at the drawing itself in model space, and we type in units, and this is very much back to the beginning, we're set up in decimal units, and same with our angular measurements, they're in decimal degrees. The precision, they're going to want us to dial down a little bit. And so if we look at the precision for this, they're telling us to set the precision at 2 units. And so when we come back in here, we can go into our units and we dial down the precision because that'll round the answers for us. And so when it says 2 units, it means 2 units to the right of the decimal point. And then we can say okay to that. And then as we look at the questions for that, the total surface area of the gasket with the rectangle and all 10 holes removed, this takes a little bit of work to do because what you have to do is you have to create the drawing geometry on the proper layers. You really don't have to annotate it and create all the drafting things like center lines and dimensions, but they do make the drawing look better. And so as I go through and I analyze this, I'm turning off those layers. And this is good technique. When you work with other people and you work with other people's drawings, you want them to create the dimensions on the dimension layers and the objects on the object layers, center lines on the center line layer, because that's the standard. And then as we go through and we work on this drawing, what we'll do is to be able to calculate out boundary shapes, we have to poly edit and join them. And so we say p-edit. We select one of the lines to create the geometry. It asks me if I want to turn it into a polyline. I say yes. And then I'll join, and I'll just put a box around it, and it'll join all the connected lines to be a polyline if it's properly drawn, meaning that the lines are endpoint to endpoint. And then I'll hit escape to clear those grips. This is also set up as a polyline. And then we'll do our analysis where we measure the area. And when we measure the area, we have to go through and start with an add area and an object. And so I'll add the area for the object, and then I'll toggle it over to subtract mode, and I'll subtract the objects. And the objects that I'll subtract are going to be this rectangular shape and then these holes that are in the gasket. And so what this will do is it will give me the area of the gasket. And so it calculates the area at 21.54 units. We can hit enter, enter, F2, and then we can grab that information. Control C, Control V. And I just place it on the drawing. And then if we take a look at the options for us, we have these different options, and they're pretty close as far as that goes. So it's all 21, and then when we look at the actual $21.54, so the answer would be E. And what I'd recommend you do is the same thing that we talked about, where we'd say the answer would be 1E. Green check mark it. I'm going to make this a little bit easier to read. And just place those onto the drawing. And then go on to the next question. The distance from the center of arc A to the center of arc B is closest to. And so again, they're using inquiry commands, and they're going to use the distance command. And so they're going to go from A to B, and it's important that you select them in the order. And so we'll go from the center of A to the center of B and calculate that distance. And so if we go to measure our distance and we use the center, and then the center, I believe it's this one, we get 6.67 as our distance. And so if we take a look at that, that answer would be B, 6.67. So as you go through and you work on these analyses, you can get a bonus for doing both of them. And then as we look at the textbook information, what we want to do is read for the knowledge of how to perform these different calculations. And so as we look at the textbook, they have a lot of other information in here as well. But ideally, we can go through and perform these different calculations for our drawings. And we'll do this all the time in the machine shop when we're creating stuff with CNC and somebody needs to know what a dimension is. We'll go through and we'll look that up for the guys down in the shop. Other information as far as things that we can look up into the database, we can use these list commands. It'll list everything about the information within the drawing. Here's our measure geometry, and we can make these quick measurements, and these are used all the time in facilities. And so if you have a floor plan of your building, you can use this to make sure that the furniture fits through the front door. And it doesn't always fit. I have had some people try to bring things in on the loading dock, and it's always good to be able to tell them, nope, I checked the analysis. Another thing you can do is you can run the time command. And so when we want to look at drawings and we want to see, well, hey, when was this drawing created? I can say time, and the time command will tell me that this drawing was created on July 19th, 2020. It'll even tell you what time it was created at. And then it will tell you the last time it was updated. And so people will use these for billing when they look at how many hours they've spent on a job and how much time it took to go through and create the drawings. Alrighty. So back to the D2L, back to the main splash page. For this week, make sure that you finish the midterm exam. The midterm exam is just the multiple choice questions with the honor lock information. So here's our midterm. It's due tonight at 11:59 p.m. If you have any difficulty, email us in D2L and we'll try to assist you with that. And then from a standpoint of the content, we're starting on Module 8 this week, which is our inquiry commands. And if you take a look at the outline of topics, the course is programmed out so that we can go through and meet our objectives. And you can just take a look at the outline of topics. And we're doing our best to stay on task here. Today is November 14th, and we're covering inquiry commands. And next week we'll go through Module 9, which will be multi-view drawings. Alrighty, with that, I'm going to stop the recording and open things up for questions.